Hello, folks. Welcome back to Ferox Frank Reviews. Last time I looked at Halloween 5 and wasn't really a great movie. No. I mean, I do like the franchise, but that film did not help. So many problems behind the scenes, so much ridiculous shit happening. So I wouldn't suggest watching it. Not to mention it was being made up on the spot, which was completely fucking ridiculous. So I have no idea why the hell the movie was made the way it was. Could it have been saved? Maybe. But I digress. Anyway, I am feeling a little bit more chipper. That plus I'm watching a hockey game in the background too, like behind the camera and everything. I'm watching the Devils game. Why the Devils? Come on, I live in New Jersey. Give me a break, all right? Anyway, I decided not to do the next Halloween film until the next review. So today we're going to talk about a Batman thing. Oh yeah, it's time for me to review another Batman movie, Serial. That's right. We're going to look at Batman and Robin, the 1949 movie Serial. Oh, wait, you thought I was going to do Batman and Robin, the one with George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Hmm, maybe next time. Just not right now. I talked about the original Batman 1943 movie Serial, but a lot of people kind of forgot it existed. Yeah. If you go on YouTube and look up movie serials from back in the 1930s and 40s, there was a lot of them. And this one was actually the first live action Batman. Yeah, done by played by Lewis Wilson. And like I said before, the original one had a lot of problems. It had some ridiculous crap in it, though. Mostly, it was a little bit racist towards anybody who was Japanese at the time, mainly because of the fact that it was during the Second World War, and also Japan actually did attack us eventually later on, and they were trying to justify a lot of shit during the show. So during the movie serial's time run. All right, it was well over 3 hours long, anyway. But despite its ridiculousness and goofiness, I did actually enjoy it. Yeah, the original one, the first one, I did relatively enjoy it. I did say anybody who's a Batman fan may actually enjoy it. Think of it as sort of a precursor to the show with Adam West. Only Lewis Wilson's more or less a little bit like a precursor to Adam West, and his acting style as Batman was really good. To be fair, I mean when he plays Bruce Wayne, he's a little bit he's also happy and lazy as hell, and kind of an opposite and kind of an obnoxious asshole. But when he gets to a serious side, he's like a completely different person altogether. And when he plays as Batman, he's basically Batman, like an early variation of Batman. But surprisingly, he did pretty well. Right? And I actually found this out a little bit recently about his family. It turns out his family actually financially owns the rights to the James Bond franchise. Who would have figured, right? But hey, that's a different story for someday that I may never cover because it sounds kind of ridiculous. But hey, what are the odd chances we get a Batman James Bond crossover? Most likely with I don't know, maybe most likely with a James Bond and Godzilla crossover. I mean, hell, we got Godzilla and Kong about to fight the Justice League coming up soon, which I'm actually looking forward for that. I mean, Godzilla already actually fucked up Marvel, so what else is new? Like, you don't know that Godzilla fucked up Marvel? Yeah, I mean, he beat the shit out of the Avengers. Actually, he almost destroyed the Avengers. Yeah, fuck Thanos. Don't fuck with Godzilla. Thanos ain't got shit on him. Okay, you know what? Enough with Marvel. So Marvel's got a ton of problems, and I don't need that shit right now. So we're going to talk about Batman and Robin, the sequel. And how is it? It's a little bit of a mixed opinion, but I will say this much. The storyline is a lot better compared to the original one. I mean, the original one had a lot of patriotism in it, though, and it had a lot of propaganda, because it was during World War II, and they were trying to get people to, join the war effort and, fight off the bad guys, the Axis powers and stuff. But you know what? As a graduate of arts and graphic designing, I gotta be honest. When I look at this cover, I freaking love this cover. I mean, just look at that. Yeah, I just like the way the design of the silhouette and everything on Batman and Robin. It looks pretty damn good. Like an old, it's like a bronze style era of movie. It looks pretty damn cool. But the one thing I have a problem with in this whole with this DVD set is that for some messed up reason here on the back on the first Batman serial right here, they have Batman and Batman and Robin. These two, these two these two images are actually from the sequel, while this one is actually more or less from this one. It's very weird. I mean, for one thing, Batman's ears are like this in the original, while in the sequel, his ears are more like that. It's kind of weird and goofy. The design of the outfit is a little bit more goofy, but the actor who's playing him, what's his name? Lowery, Lowery. Wow, seriously, Lowery, Lowery. That's kind of silly. The last name. But to be fair, Robert is a trained stuntman anyway, and as an actor, he's semi-passable, give or take. He doesn't have the umph to be Batman. Anyway, more or less, if you watch the Lewis, if you watch Lewis Wilson's performance and watch Robert Lowery's performance, there's a clear difference. But to be fair, Robert Lowery is actually around Batman's height, which is 6'2", while Lewis Wilson is around 6', 6'1", give or take. So he's around average height, while Robert Lowery is slightly a bit taller. So he's like 6'2", 6'3", but he actually is more built to be Batman. While Lewis was a bit more slimmed down, kind of like Adam West is kind of like Adam West. But to be fair, everybody loves the Adam West one. Freaking everyone loves the Adam West one. Which now that I think about it, I should probably do the Adam West films sooner or later. The live action films and the two anime movies that they starred in, along with Burt Ward. I mean, hey, that's a future episode at some point. So, what's the plot of the whole series? Well, it's years later, but this time around, there's more characters they interact with. I mean, we have Batman and Robin, Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson. We also have Alfred Warden, which is he's a bit more stern in this version, so he's more of a take charge type person, and he actually does put on the bat suit at some point and beat the crap out of a couple of villains, just to save Bruce Wayne at some point, because Bruce gets captured at some point in the show. So he dresses up as Batman just to actually prove that, because the criminals think that Bruce Wayne is Batman. It's a bit more of a complicated situation. It's a little bit of a complicated situation, but to be fair, it proves that Alfred could be a real badass, and he can stand his own ground. Is he better than the Alfred in the original one? I go both ways on that one because I like both of the actors. I mean, the silly cowardly one, it's entertaining it's very entertaining, and I do enjoy that. But this other one's being stern, kind of a perfect balance for the show, so it makes more sense. But we do have other DC characters in this. I mean, for one thing, Vicky Vale is actually the love interest in this one, so there's no so Linda. I forgot what her name was. Yeah, so Linda is not even in this one. Yeah, the last one with Linda, yeah, she's not in this one at all. So they actually chose a proper female character that Batman actually happens to know. And instead of Inspector Arnold or Captain Arnold, it's actually Commissioner Gordon. I'm sorry, the whole Linda thing's got me a little screwy at the moment. But either way, it's actually kind of nice to actually broaden some proper characters. Vicky actually has a brother named Jimmy Vale, who actually works for the gang this time around. And who's the gang run by this time? Well, the gang of criminals in this movie is actually a bunch of gangsters whose boss is called, get this, the Wizard. And what is he? He's a guy dressed in all black with a black cowl, and he has a black hooded head though, and he has a cape with this type of a circular thing around it. It's like, this is the Wizard. Most fans actually prefer that villain more than Dr. Daka from the original film. And not gonna lie, I did kind of like Daka a little bit, even though it was clearly a white guy playing a Japanese character. But To be fair, they did actually. To be fair, the actor who played Daka actually did have fun with the role. So, and he does do a very good villainous role. Even though he's not exactly Japanese, and it would have been nicer if they got some. Maybe they changed his role around instead of being a Japanese, mad scientist. Why couldn't he be a German mad scientist who was also a captain in the military? That would have been actually that would have made more sense. But then again, I'm guessing Japan had just attacked us at that point when this came out, when the first one came out. But no, the wizard this time around is actually a master criminal who is a mastermind. There's also several other characters too. There's a professor called Professor Hamill who invented something called the remote control device, and there's also his assistant Carter. Mainly because of the fact that the professor is wheelchair bound. However, in some segments, he does actually go into another. He actually goes to his room, locks the door by always. For some reason, he goes, "Got the key, lock the door." Uh, Professor, can I ask? Wait, Professor, before you go in there and do whatever you do, why didn't you have like a turn lock? Why is it a key lock? It's more dastardly that way. Why? Higher budget, asshole. God. Anyway, what does the remote control device actually do? Well, here's the thing. The main plot point of this is actually that Batman and Robin are trying to stop the Wizard from taking over Gotham. I'm sorry, of course, got a little dry there. They actually try to stop the Wizard from committing a massive crime spree, and so he steals the remote control device. But what's the remote control device done? Well, this is the early 1940s, so keep that in mind. The remote control device actually controls anything that's controlled electronically or has a semi-electronic computer, namely any locomotive objects, meaning cars, planes, even trains. Yeah, trains, planes, and automobiles. Fuck me sideways. I gotta review that movie sooner or later. But problem is, I don't have that film on me, so I can't review it. Actually, here's a bit of a fun fact. You know the F word's only in the one segment where Steve Martin's only cursing at the at the person at the flight desk. Yeah, the rest of the whole and the movie gets an R rating for that, but the whole movie's treated like a PG-13 film. So re-rated PG-13, you fucks. I mean, Jesus. I mean, there's certain PG-13 films that actually have the F word in it more than twice. I think the maximum amount is three times. I mean, I saw that movie. I mean, hell, I saw that film with Kristen Stewart in it where they're actually underwater with all those monsters, and they dropped the F bomb like 7 times. And it was PG-13. So to be fair, you need the closed captioning because you couldn't actually tell they were dropping the F bomb at the time. So, and I guess nobody noticed it. Will I review that movie? Fuck if I know. So here's the crazy thing. Now, the remote control device is actually a device that can somewhat work by today's standards because, well, everything's controlled electronically anyway through via the internet and satellites. Actually, that type of device would actually be worse if it was done by today's standards because it can be almost unhackable. So yeah, it's actually a much more scarier thing than you realize. So the wizard actually terrorizes the city and everything. But here's something that's very weird. Professor Hamill's the one who invented the machine, and every time we see Hamill, every time he's in his room, he always locks the door, goes into his closet, where he sits into a chair that turns on some electricity, and he just gets up. He gets up and he goes into his fireplace, and there's a secret compartment there. So right off the bat, it's trying to tell you that Professor Hamill is the main villain. And guess what? Spoiler alert, he's not. So yeah, the whole show, basically the show tricked you because every time we see Professor Hamill, it's always showing him going in there. But here's the thing: as the whole serial itself progresses, you can clearly tell that he's not the main villain. we always see Carter. We always see Carter actually trying to help the professor here and there, though. But the professor is always short tempered with him, and he's always kind of an asshole. What's Vicky Vale do? Well, Vicky's always is working for Picture Magazine, so or the Gotham Gazette or something. But either way, she's always trying to get a picture, and sometimes she gets into trouble where Batman and Robin usually save her half the time. The fight scenes in this one compared to the last one are well relatively the same, but other than that, Batman's actually much more is a bit more bulked up in this version, mainly due to the fact that the actor Robert Lowery is actually more or less a stuntman to begin with, so he can actually do some of the stunts, and we do see him throw judo throws every once in a while. So they actually do incorporate more martial arts in this one than rather than the boxing than the stage boxing street fight thing or fisticuffs that we saw in the last one. So to be fair, joking aside, I did like the fight scenes in the last one because they were kind of silly, and that punch down effect, you always hear it in the Three Stooges every time, or mostly in films that were made around that era. Actually, when I heard those sound effects, I was kind of expecting Mo, Larry, and Curly to pop out on the floor. Like, what's that? There's a fight going on. Gee, Mo, what do we do? What do you think, you fools? What do you think? Let's go over there and help Batman out. Oh my God. That would have been awesome! The Three Stooges cameo appearances, that would have been great! Unfortunately, that didn't exactly happen. Plus, the first one was actually made in the early mid 40s, while this one was made in the late 40s, 49 to be more exact. So the whole show is basically just Batman and Robin trying to find out who the wizard is, and the remote control. I mean, I would go into further detail, but I don't want to waste like an hour or two trying to describe the whole show. But all I can tell you is that they do try their best trying to find out the wizard. There's a lot more detective stuff in this version than the last version, but to be fair, the presentation of it's lacking compared to what Lewis Wilson did in the original one. I mean, if you watch Lewis Wilson's performance and Robert Lowery's performance side by side, you can clearly see that Lewis Wilson is putting a lot more into it though with his acting. I mean, seriously. I mean, as far as acting wise, Robert Lowery doesn't stand a chance compared to Lewis Wilson. But to be fair, Robert Lowery does get a couple of good funny lines in here, and they do actually work from time to time, which is actually kind of funny. In fact, there's actually a segment when they actually find out who they identify as suspect. They go over and grab him before he goes to the villain hideout, and this is actually one of my favorite scenes. I laugh every time this happens. Batman comes up right behind the guy, taps him on the shoulder. Guy smoking a cigarette, turns around. Man, hey, right in the face. And what's Batman do? That hurt. Boom. Knocks him out. I'm not even joking. It's so funny. I wish I could show that scene, but yeah, I don't want to get flagged. I mean, I rarely, and besides, I am going to probably show scenery or a clip every once in a while. I mean, I wanted to show a clip from the movie Predator, but since technically Marvel and Disney kind of like financially own that property now, I don't want to get flagged by them. And for DC, well, this is an old ass movie serial, but to be fair, it's a collector's item, regardless. But that is one of my favorite segments of the movie. It usually appears it actually is in chapter 5, which I gotta be honest, it's very funny. To me, it's very funny. Especially how Batman just he shrugs it off. He got literally socked in the jaw, and he's like, "That hurt." That's pretty funny. I fucking love that scene. In fact, I think I had it on my Facebook at one point because it was so hilarious. I actually had to hold my breath while I was recording it too because it was so funny. But but to be fair, there's always like those cliffhanger endings on the chapters because this is a movie serial. But if you want to see the whole thing in its entirety without the cliffhanger endings, then like the original and just like Batman, you can watch Batman and Robin, the 1949 serial, right here on YouTube. And there are some fan edits of it where they try to make it a 2-hour movie or just show the entire thing uncut in its original entirety without the whole cliffhanger ending thing, which to be fair, it's kind of good. Actually, in my opinion, it's really good because you actually see everything uncut. Now, what about Jimmy Vale? Well, Jimmy is actually a pilot for the gang. There's also two other characters. There's a reporter. There's a radio jockey called Barry Brown who's actually a newscaster, and he's been dropping a lot of information for the wizard. So people assume he's the wizard, and there's a private detective called Dunham. Yeah, these are recurring characters, but Barry Brown's a huge problem. And Dunham, he's a recurring character that keeps popping up, who may or may not be the main villain. But he's a private detective that's been trying to capture who the wizard is. Now, eventually, at some point, Bruce actually infiltrates the gang, but thanks to Barry Brown's broadcast, they find out that he was an imposter. Oh dear! And at some point later on, Dunham was actually seen at. Don't worry, he gets away sooner. Don't worry. Thanks to Robbie, he gets away. As for Dunham, he actually was snooping around around Professor Hamill's house. Carter was out there with a pistol. He accidentally shoots Batman and Robin because he mistaked them for prowlers. But when he saw that the same prowler was nearby, Batman and Robin tackled the guy, and it turns out it was Dunham. So he brings him inside and with Hamill and Carter, and so Batman frisks him, and all three of them are including Robin. They just watch him do it. But he had a cigar on him, and he didn't want to light. So Batman just goes, "Hey, let me light that for you." No, that cigar. Oh, I see a capsule. Microfilm. And it turns out the microfilm is actually plants to actually make a neutralizer for the remote control device. So Hamill got a little pissed off about that because it was actually his plans, but Dunham says they actually belong to the government. But even though the plans are actually are actually Hamill's. So Batman takes it back to the plant where they actually create the neutral, where they actually, actually set up a trap for the wizard and his men, but the wizard already saw through that problem, so they just went along with it. While Professor Hamill actually creates the device to actually the neutralizer device. But so eventually the Carter actually tries to deliver it though, but he gets ambushed. Batman and Robin try to intervene, and well, the device is now under his is actually under the wizard's control because they switched it out at some point where Carter didn't even realize it. Mm-hmm. What about Jimmy Vale? He was a pilot, and he actually worked along with the men most of the time too, helping him get away half the time. Vicky actually became a bit of a problem. Actually, became more concerned for her brother, and eventually, Batman actually tried to follow them. Tried to follow her at some point. So Vicky was trailing Jimmy, and Batman was trailing Vicky. So Vicky gets captured. Jimmy actually wound up getting tied up, but he actually wound up escaping at some point. But anyway, Batman's in the same building, but he gets knocked out via electrical tranquilizer. And Jimmy probably does the most ballsiest thing in the entire show. We actually find out in the next chapter what really happened. Jimmy actually unmasks Bruce in the hallway when nobody's looking. He goes, "Bruce Wayne," and he drags him into another room, locks the door, and in the next chapter we find out what actually happened. So, all right, but the ending of the chapter goes: Batman actually leaves the room. That actually helps Vicky escape and fights off the goons, but he gets tossed out of the window and falls to his death. But that's not what actually happened. We see Bruce Wayne walking out of the building, getting picked up by Robin, and he says exactly what happened. And this is kind of sad what happened with Jimmy, but it's a good redemption arc for Jimmy. So what happened with Jimmy? He actually drags Batman into the closet room. He undresses himself and Batman and Bruce Wayne. He puts his clothes on Bruce and puts on the Batman suit and goes out to go save his sister. So Jimmy was wearing the Batman suit the whole time. So that was actually him who died. So it was more or less him trying to redeem himself, which is really sad, but kind of a good way for to kill the character. Yeah, I know they were going to kill the character off, but having him redeem himself by shaving his sister and dressing up as Batman to save Bruce Wayne, actually, it's not a bad way to go. I'm not going to lie. It's not bad. So, okay. The Wizard gets more and more curious that he thinks that Bruce Wayne is Batman, so they try to set up a trap for Bruce Wayne. This is where Alfred dresses up as Batman at some point, and the Wizard is always one step ahead of them. At some point, he gets the neutralizer device. Now, why do you want the neutralizer device along with the remote control device? Well, he made a necklace, and once he turns it on, and both the machines are on, since the necklace actually is a conductor for both devices, it turns him invisible. Okay, seriously, what the fuck? What the hell's going on here? Turns him invisible? What? I mean, what the fuck? It's crazy, but understandable. Anyway, Batman. Anyway, at some point, the Wizard actually winds up going on a mission on his own. Tries to kill Batman, but fails. Knocks out Robin and a couple of guards. Causes a bunch of chaos in the factory where the machine was developed. Oh, and guess what? It's ridiculous and crazy, but Batman actually came up with a solution that's saying that the Wizard actually, since he has both the machines on him, then he can, and he has an apparatus on him, he can turn himself invisible. Right? One of the scientists actually told him that if a device actually is hit by both, if a machine is hit by both devices, it makes the device relatively invisible. Makes a lot of sense now, but also kind of ridiculous. Hey, works, it works. But still, one question, what the hell? So anyway, eventually, so the Wizard actually winds up getting injured at some point by getting his hand shot, but the bullet just grazes it. But he drops his gloves behind. Batman actually takes the gloves into his lab, and he actually reverses, and he actually does a lot of tests on it, and he finds that the fingerprints inside don't. Now we all assume originally we assume that maybe it's Professor Hamill, but as the show progresses, even to the final chapters, um, the fingerprints don't belong to the professor at all. No, they're Carter's. What? Carter? Anyway, see, Professor. Now we're assuming that there's actually. I assume there was actually a scene missing at this in some segment where we actually see that the professor actually shows everybody he is able to walk, but the machine in the back only gives him more energy to walk. But it's only for maybe a few hours or so, or maybe 6 hours at most, and he can do whatever, and he does what he needs to do. To be fair, the actor who plays him is a Western style actor, so but he does a pretty decent job at playing a naive professor. So at some point, Professor Hamill and Carter get into an argument where Hamill just storms off, and we see a figure. Well, we see the door open, and a revolver pistol comes through and shoots Carter. He goes, "I know what you're doing. You think I failed you, but I didn't. No, bang!" Uh, oh. Anyway, Gordon, Batman, and Robin get to the place. They find Carter dead, and Hamill is just stunned. What is this? Believe it or not, Carter was the wizard. No, that's not true. I would never believe it. Oh, how could this be? It still doesn't add up. But anyway, we get another report. Anyway, Barry Brown has been announcing a lot of stuff by the Wizards, and the Wizard actually has been announcing many things. But Barry Brown actually has something about the Wizard that's kind of scared. That's actually a bit more important to everybody. It turns out the man they actually have that's deceased is not the Wizard, and he's still alive, and he's about to, and he's going to make. He's actually attempting to make an attempt to kill Jim Gordon. I'm sorry, I'm starting to fumble a little bit, mainly because I'm watching the Devils game right now, and oh fuck, the other team actually got 2 scores as I'm talking. So off camera, I'm doing this behind the camera to the other team. Fuck you, Capitals. God. Anyway, so Barry Brown was actually about to announce who the actual Wizard really is, and he gets choked out. Yeah, Wizard's invisible and choked him out. Speaking of which, maybe I should stop wearing this necklace for a while, or any type of necklace for the time being. But yeah, he gets choked out and gets sent to the hospital afterwards. And so Batman actually asks Vicky to come into the police station and she borrow a camera, and he gives her a special bulb that can actually take That's an infrared style bulb that can actually take a picture of somebody who's invisible. Okay. And the wizard actually climbs outside, and all we see is a pistol holding down about to kill Gordon. But Vicky sees it, and she takes a picture real quick as Batman actually throws Gordon down to the ground, and a shot goes off. The wizard tries to escape, but one of his guys gets arrested. And so the wizard calls to get some new type of transportation, but his call got tracked thanks to Batman and Gordon. So Vicky is assuming she actually got a picture of the Invisible Man. So she goes down to get it printed out, and she comes back. Batman, Robin, and Gordon are all stunned to see who's actually in the picture. It's Carter. What? Okay, I know this whole thing built up to Professor Hamill being the main villain, but maybe they shouldn't have done that. I mean, good God. It was a complete distraction, but whatever. Anyway, Robin goes out to actually find the actual location where the wizard is. Batman actually gets an escort to go over there, and Robin actually sees where the wizard actually hides out. While Vicky gets captured again, but Batman actually comes in to save her, and most of the wizard's men get arrested on the spot. Robin brings Batman over to the location, and they actually find the lair this time around. And one of the goons actually lets next to one of the goons. They get in, and they have a bit of a fist fight where the wizard tries to escape. But Batman and Robin knock out both the goons, and they come into Professor Hamill's house. But this time they all arrive into the fireplace like we thought they were going to. But no, they come in through the side. I think originally, okay. And here's the thing: Carter is sitting right there next to the professor. And so before through some bullshit dialogue, we see that Professor Hamill confesses that he was the wizard, but Batman actually grabs Carter and says, "Carter, you're under arrest for being the wizard." And okay, he says that Professor Hamill was actually forced into doing it, and of course, Hamill confesses that yes, the whole thing actually happened. And we later find out what Professor Hamill was really doing the entire time. In his fireplace was a secret lab that he's been working the entire time, trying to stop the wizard. Sorry, they got another goal. I got to flip them off again. I don't think this game's going too well. I may just turn the TV off. I've been having a bad day anyway, so hopefully the Devils will do better in the next game. So, what happens now? Well, Carter gets arrested, and he is confirmed to be the wizard. Well, what about the guy who actually got killed? It was Carter's twin brother. Hamill was completely oblivious to the fact that Carter even had a twin brother. While Carter was calling the shots the entire time, his brother was taking care of the professor. So, yeah, they tricked everybody. I'm going to tell you what I think really was supposed to happen. I think originally they were supposed to actually make the reveal that originally the professor was supposed to be the main villain, but maybe that wasn't in one of the original drafts and they kept it into the main storyline because they wanted to trick the audience into thinking maybe Professor Hamill was the main villain the entire time. And the first time I saw this, that's why I assumed. But when I saw Carter was being pointed at the whole time, I'm like, what? And I saw everything unfold. It's like, oh, okay. And plus, if you look at some spots later on where we see that we thought the professor did something, if we look closely, it was actually Carter who did the thing instead. So yeah, the movie. So yeah, the wizard and his gang are fully arrested. Professor Hamill goes on doing his thing. Vicky Vale actually tries to ask Batman out for dinner to join her with Bruce Wayne, but Bruce actually calls him up afterwards that he's going on vacation. It's a recorded message. Go figure. And they all have a good laugh. And they basically end having a good laugh. And that was Batman and Robin, the 1949 serial. Is it superior to the 1943 Batman movie serial? Yeah, it's a mixed opinion kind of thing. I mean, for one, I'll give you this much. The second one definitely had much more of a higher budget than the other one did. But the storyline is more something out of the Adam West show. So, if anything, the Adam West Show is a collaboration of both these movie serials. A bit of a fun fact: the original Adam West Show actually got greenlit, but somebody actually brought in the movie serial. Oh, the first one, mind you, and the second one at the Playboy Mansion. And since Hugh Hefner is actually a huge comic book fan, well, he said play the reels, and movie producers, the Playboy models, like they all like the show. So I figured, okay, let's make a new Batman show. Yeah, and that's how we got the 1960s Batman. Go figure, right? So would I recommend the second movie serial? If you're a huge Batman fan, definitely give it a watch. Like I said, the action's a bit more better in this version, but and the storyline is a little bit more better too compared to the other one, which is more patriotic and more or less propaganda. But honestly, I like both these films. They are a huge piece of Hollywood history, and they're actually Batman's first outing in the movies. Even though it was presented as a movie serial, they're actually not that bad. I've yet to see the Superman serials, but I heard they're actually okay. But if you want to see some decent, good movie serials, I heard The Shadow's actually good. Any of the Dick Tracy ones are also good too. Even the Phantom's got a couple of good ones out there too. I've yet to see those. Yeah. So I do highly recommend both these movie serials. But just prepare for the first one's a little honestly, the first one is slightly racist with the whole thing being against the Japanese. But like I said, it was made during the Second World War. And Japan was one of our enemies at the time. So just be prepared for a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment, a lot of anti-Japanese hatred at the time. Okay, just be strongly prepared for that. And I'm sorry, I'm just watching the game, and I just realized something. Like, apparently I'm supposed to be 6-4, but apparently the goal didn't count. So yeah, it didn't count. Thank God. So it's only like 5-4. Come on, Devils. I'm praying. I mean, I am a Jersey fan after all. And also, Gotham City is supposed to be in New Jersey too. So, yeah. So, like I said, I do recommend both these movie serials. You may like them, you may not like them, but hey, I had to cover this sooner or later, and I'm glad I did. It actually kind of helped me out. Now, that being said, tune in next time. I'll be in my costume, my Halloween costume, and I'll do Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Theatrical cut. Pray for me, folks. Oh, wait. I'm playing Jesse Stone in my next review. Still, pray for me. And, well, Rex says he's going to get a video up by the weekend, so hopefully that'll be a good one. So until then, see you on Halloween.